If you don't have any props, you might just want to gather them up quick. Yoga block if you have one, blankets or towels. If you don't have a bolster, and a lot of people don't, get 2 bed pillows, because I had planned a restorative pose where we're laying back on something. 1 bed pillow, unless you have like really good pillows, will be not so soft. I mean, will not give you as much height. You can also have tons of blankets, but 2 bed pillows or 3 usually does the trick. So I'll give you a moment of stillness, a moment of quiet. Maybe a few more folks will come in that time. And those of you here can get your props. And then in a moment, we will officially start. And I also want to mention, I do have an pretty bad injured knee. So sometimes, and I'll point out during class that I might move my leg in a way that isn't quite right. Like you can see I'm sitting half easy pose and the other half is my leg out to avoid the bend. Okie doke. So we are going to start sitting. So whenever you're ready and you've gathered some props, and that might include sitting on a folded up blanket, you're just going to come to a comfortable seated position. Normally I would sit cross-legged, and ironically this is called easy pose, and it always was easy and felt really good, but now with injured knee I have to limit my bends. So make sure if you're looking at me as you practice, if I'm doing something asymmetrical like this, you'll know I'm modifying, as we all have to do when we have injuries. So sit nice and tall and make sure you feel like your neck is nice and long. The shoulders are broad. Your hips and your sitting bones are plopped and planted down. And just bring your hands onto your thighs or any place that you'd like to put them so they're not fussing around. And close your eyes and just start with a few breaths here. Noticing your inhale and noticing your exhale. Giving yourself time and space for your breath. On an exhale, relax your shoulders. On an inhale, notice if you can feel the breath sliding into your nose. You can have your eyes closed or open. At any time, if you need to change your position, change your seat, switch your legs out, or come to a whole different seat altogether, please remember to do that. We're going to start with a move that's actually from the melt method. So got to give them credit. It's a melt method move, and it's very subtle. It's not so much of a stretch, but it's a move that creates a fascial pull, really, and it invites us to get a little more spaciousness in some of our connective tissue in our arms, possibly in the neck. So start by taking your fingertips down. If your arms are really kind of short and your fingertips don't touch the floor, you could take blocks or blankets because you don't want your hands in the air. If you have super long arms, I think taking them wider will do the trick. And root down through your fingertips. So you have a little pushing down through your fingers, a little energetic reach, as if you were reaching for something below your floor, but not straining your shoulders in any way. So now with both arms pretty active, on your right arm, maybe give a little more of an energetic length to that right arm, and then tip your head up a fraction and turn your head to the other side. So you're turning away from the arm that you're energizing. So if you're energizing your right arm, you're going to turn your head to the left. Inhale here and breathe into your collarbones, especially your right collarbone. Exhale, you could relax your arm a little bit, so keep your head turned. And then one more time. As you inhale, energize your right fingertips away from the shoulder as you have your head slightly turned to the upper side. And take a nice big breath into your upper chest. And you might feel especially spacious, and you might feel this as a stretch in the tissue underneath your collarbones for sure. And then release that. If you're sitting cross-legged, you may want to change your seat, the position of your legs. Again, I have a knee injury, so I can't do another cross, but you could change the position of your legs at any time. Roll your wrists around a little bit, and then let's come back and do the second side. So energize your fingertips down away from the shoulders. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed. Don't let them hike up. And now this time you're going to focus a little bit more on your left arm. Energize your left fingertips away from your left shoulder. Turn your tip of your nose up just a teeny tiny fraction and turn your head slightly to the right. You don't need to go as far as you need to go. Take a few breaths here. On an inhale, think about reaching your fingertips away from your shoulders. You can also think about, as you inhale, the spaciousness in your armpit chest here. You might feel that. You might feel it along the collarbone. You might even feel it in your cheek. It's just a little fascial pull. That's a nice thing to feel. And then when you're ready, release that and switch your seat. You can stay in the same seat the whole time, just so you know. So for here, we're going to do a small twist. So crisscross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top, because we're going to twist to the right. Inhale here. And as you exhale, take a small twist from your upper shoulder girdle and collarbones to the right. Just a nice little small twist here and pause. Make sure both sitting bones are anchored, especially as we twist to the right. The left sitting bone sometimes wants to sail up, and we want that really connected with the earth. Now from here, make a little fist with your right hand. It's not even a fist. Curl your fingers, bend the elbow to a right angle. Keep the arm close to your body and draw that arm back. Not like a fist, because that's not very pleasant, right? Like you're pulling back on a bow. And now notice how that gave you more spaciousness along the right side of your chest. Inhale into that spaciousness here. Good. Exhale here. And take one more breath here. If you like, on your next breath, you could unfold your arm and plant it behind you. You don't have to keep this hand on your chest. I like to, because I like to really tap into that area. Literally, you can tap it, but you could also just bring the hand down on the opposite leg. Let's take one more breath here and breathe into the upper back. Good. And then unwind your twist. You can take your arms up if you like or not. And then you're going to bring your hands down again. Change your seat if you like to. We're going to be twisting to your left. Crisscross your arms, left arm on top. Inhale a breath here. Exhale from the upper part of your body, not the mid ribs. Take a small twist. So you're not going to go really far on the first twist, right? Good. Then release that top hand. Curl your fingers. Make a right angle with your elbow and slowly pull that arm back. Don't pull it back vigorously, because we don't want to overstretch or pull the tissue here on this side of the chest, on this collarbone. We want to feel a little more opening. Inhale again, and as you exhale, maybe you can twist a little bit more. Maybe you freed up a little more space and you opened up some areas that you could twist into, and then you can straighten that left arm and place it behind you. And you can keep your right hand on the collarbone if that is of interest and it gives you some information of what you're feeling here, or you could just bring it down either leg. Take two more breaths here. Make sure your sitting bones, both of them, are down. Make sure your legs are relaxed and you're not yanking or pulling to get into the twist. It's kind of flowing very organically. And then when you inhale, breathe the arms up and come back to the start position. This time, do take your legs out in front of you. You can't see my toes, but you're going to wiggle your toes around. Too cold, too cold. Wiggle the toes around. And then you can take the feet out and in. And then you could roll both ankles around, or you could do one at a time. And sometimes that gives you more focus on the ankle that you are doing. You might notice one gets a lot more movement than the other. So from here, let's just do some very familiar movements to get a little more opening in the arm area, and that also affects our shoulder girdle and our neck. So interlace your fingers all the way up to the webbing, and then flip the palms so you're looking at your fingers, and without force, press your arms forward. Now, if you can't straighten your elbows, that's fine. Maybe you need to be here. So bring your arms down a little lower than your shoulders to start, if that works. And then you can start lifting your arms very subtly. But if this bothers anywhere in the body, you're going to stop, right? So just keep lifting. You may be able to get to the point where your palms are looking up to the ceiling, but maybe not. Soften your jaw, make sure your neck doesn't have any tension. Good. And then lower the arms just as slowly as you raise them. Turn the palms to face you. And notice which pinky is on the bottom and perhaps which thumb is on top. I have short thumbs, they don't even reach each other. But switch the interlace for sure with the other pinky on the bottom, and the other thumb will be on top. And then press your arms forward. Might feel like a completely different stretch. On this side, I automatically came a little lower, I see. So that's interesting. And then find a comfortable stretch, and only if it feels okay everywhere in your body are you going to start raising your arms up. If you feel any discomfort in your neck, go a little lower than where you are. And then if you can get them all the way up, great. If they don't get up all the way, also great. Make sure your ribs aren't pushing forward. You want to pull those front ribs in, lengthen your side waist on both sides. Make sure you're in a comfortable seat of your choice. And then start lowering the hands. Turn the palms to face you, interlace them, and wiggle your fingers a little bit. Wiggle your fingers. So we're going to come to a twist again. We're going to do one more here before we move on. We're going to twist to your right again. So bring your arms up. Take your arms up, energize your fingertips up toward the ceiling. Inhale, and as you exhale, start your twist. Initiate the twist from the upper part of your chest. Then bring your right arm behind you and your left arm in front of you. So it's the standard arms for the twist. Inhale again, and if it feels appropriate, you can twist a little bit more, go a little lower, kind of in the bra area, and see if those ribs are going to come around on the second twist. Sometimes more of the body will join the fun, so to speak. Soften your jaw. You're twisting to the right. So just know that your left leg might have tensed up. So without looking back there, just calm that left leg down. Make sure the left sitting bone is down. Bring your awareness to your upper back and breathe into the width of your back. Breathe into your back lungs for the next 2 breaths. Good. And when you're ready, float your arms up, come back to the start position. You can change your leg position if you like. Good, we're going to twist to the second side. Take your arms up, inhale. As you exhale, revolve your shoulder girdle in back and your collarbones in front, and then lower your hands down. Left arm is going to come behind you, right arm to the left leg somewhere. Make sure that your right leg is relaxed, your right sitting bone down. You can give it a little poke to make sure it's down. And breathe here. And if you'd like to explore coming into the twist a little more deeply, inhale. And as you exhale without force and without using your arms, see now if you could come down maybe a little lower in your twist. And going further is only helpful if your body gets there without strain or effort. We're not straining, we're not using our arms to take a bind. So this was our second twist, so you might feel you have a little more freedom to revolve that beautiful spine of yours. In this second twist, take 2 more breaths here, breathing wherever you like. I like to breathe into the upper back. Twists generally are big back openers, but if you keep your arms wide, you also will feel some nice spaciousness in the collarbones. And when you're ready, inhale, float your arms up. And you have a choice here. You can come to all fours. Because of my injured knee, I can't really do that fully, but I'll just give you an idea of what you can do. So you can do some cat-cowing as we go to this different orientation. So remember your cat-cowing. Second. Good. So your cat-cow is you're alternating between a back bend, which is the cow, and then perfect for Halloween, which is, I can't believe it's over already. I don't want it to be over, is your standard rounded back, forehead to the pubic bone. If you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, you're not going to do that. You're going to do a different version where the inhale part is the same. But as you exhale, instead of rounding like a cat, you're going to draw your hips back to your heels. And they can go as far as they reach. Again, this is something I can't do I'm just going to take that leg out of the picture so you can't see it. And then you're going to continue moving back and forth. And you could stick with the cat-cow, and you could go from cat-cow to child's pose, but you may also want to do down dog for a full body stretch. And since I need to be off my knees, that's definitely what I'm going to do. So you tuck your toes under and you lift up. And rather than doing this marchy thing, which isn't really that beneficial, you're going to lift your right heel. Lift your right heel, and you really get a good flex in the toes. And what's going to happen is your right hip might want to pop out, but you're not going to let that happen. You're going to keep your right hip the same distance from your right armpit as your left hip is from the left armpit, and you're going to release your left heel down to the floor a little bit more. Good. And then come back to down dog if you need a rest before you do the other side. Come down to table for a few moments, and we're going to do that same stretch whenever you're ready. So now you're going to bend the left knee, but more importantly, lift the heel. So you're really getting a deep fold in the fronts of your toes. Keep your hips even, and gently, without force, press that opposite heel, your right heel, down a little bit more. Good. And then from here, we're going to come to standing. So you can walk your feet to your hands if you like, or you can come up to the lunge if you like. But either way, we're going to come to standing. And we're going to take a few breaths here. Excellent. So let's do just a couple of standing forward bends. And then none of you have your cameras on. And of course, if you're watching this as a recording, I can't see you. But I also want to show you how to do a nice forward bend using something probably everybody has at their home, a wall. So from here, and I'm going to do these forward bends all with a straight spine without rounding. So inhale, shine your fingertips up. Oh, notice how long you feel in your right side waist and your left side waist. And as you exhale, forward fold. Even if you take your arms out, you can do that, but just make sure you bring them to your legs. Don't leave them out. We don't need to do that. And this is a gentle class, so we don't need to have our arms out. And you bring your hands either to your hips or to your thighs. You can bend your knees if you need to. Keep that spine nice and long, and make sure your neck is doing what the rest of your spine is doing. I'm looking up sometimes. Even though I can't see anyone, I still tend to look toward the screen as if I could see people. So, plus I don't want to be rude, but just keep your neck nice and long. Good. As you inhale, slowly come up and bring your hands down to your heart center. Good. Let's do that again. Inhale here. Exhale, release. Inhale, breathe the arms up. If you like, float your heels up. Take a little toe stand if that works for you. And then land your heels down, forward fold. And you might find that your second forward bend comes a little easier. You may feel more freer, and you might not. So again, we just want to meet our body where it is at any given time. Just like now with this knee injury and this silly brace, I have to modify for many things, and some things I can't do. Inhale again, and as you exhale, if it feels appropriate for you, keeping the spine nice and long as opposed to this, here I'm collapsing my low back. So here I'm broadening my low back. Good, you can go a little lower if that feels okay. Let your head and your neck travel along with the rest of your spine. And to come out of the forward bend, you can slide your hands up your legs if you like, or you can do the fancy pants arm movement, whatever feels good. So now that we did that, let's do another forward bend. And so we kind of prepped a little bit, and I'm going to use this wall, I think is my best bet. So you're going to basically come to a wall, and when you do this, you are going to be stepping back. So you just have to make sure as you step back, you're not stepping on something that's going to slide. If you could bring your whole mat to the wall, that would probably be ideal. But you take your hands on the wall, maybe your fingertips in line with the tops of your shoulders, and then take one step back and the other step back. Now, when we forward fold, it's this area here, that little divot, that little crease, which is like the front of our hip joint. And what we want to do is we want to fold there. So you're going to fold that back. Remember, you can always bend your knees if you need to. Then maybe take another step back. I'll tell you what you don't ever want to do. You don't want to ever feel that you're so far away from the wall that your feet are behind you. That's not going to be. You want to keep your spine nice and long. And then you keep lowering your hands, and my head's going to disappear a little bit. And really, this is such a great way to really lengthen your spine. You could even imagine that someone isn't pulling you, but some smart yoga person is not going to pull you. They have their hands on your hips, and they're just gently easing you back just a little bit to make sure that you're not crunching your low back. Also, you don't want to be here, just so you know. Some people, I don't know if you can see how my butt is like behind my heels here. So find a forward bend that works for you. This also works the abs a little bit because you can't release your belly here or it'll just be hanging down. So you got to use enough effort to keep your belly drawing in against gravity. Good. So this is something nice that you can always do at home. It also works. And then to come out of it, you start walking forward. Also, kitchen counters can be really good. You can hold on to the edge and walk back. So that's another idea. So from here, we're going to come back to the mat because I have a lot of lying down things lined up for this evening, which I hope is something that interests you. You can come back to down. You can come down any way you like. You could flop down. You could do another forward bend. You could hang out in another downward facing dog. You can come to plank pose if you like. If you want to get in a little more zesty stuff, you can come into plank. But remember, I can't come to my knee, so I can't show you that. So I'm just going to do this weird turning thing that plops me down on my hip. So come to the floor in any way that works for you. And if you want to take child's pose, hips to your heels as a little respite, you can certainly do that. Good. So for the next thing, yes, I wanted to do some bridging and some supported bridge. So first, when we do supported bridge, you can either use a block. We're not going to do it yet, a yoga block, but this is just a regular old folded up beach towel. And I'm going to come pretty close to the camera because it can still be Halloween, so scary yoga lady. So now if you're on the block, you can see how deep this is. This isn't as deep and it's soft, but not everybody has yoga blocks. And sometimes a yoga block isn't all that comfortable. So you can have both. So you can decide which one you like. And you're folding your blanket or your towel up so it's pretty narrow. So it's not really super wide. Okay. So place those two items to the side, a folded up towel or folded up yoga blanket, and your block, and come to lying down. For bridging, socks aren't great. So come to lying on your mat. Oh, that feels nice. Get yourself comfortable and just pause there for a moment. And then bring your thighs and your feet together. Then set up your arms. You're more than welcome to do the usual arm position, but I like robot arms. That works very well for me. But you can also have your arms like this. But whatever arm position you choose, 90-degree robot arms or long straight arms, you're going to make sure that you're energizing your upper arms down. So that's the same for both. So hug your thighs in together. And as you inhale, give a little push into the feet. Don't let your legs separate. Tuck, get pubic bone toward the belly button, and just come up, trying not to make your belly pushed up. I mean, my belly sticks up, but we don't want to go like that, in other words. And, poof the belly up a little bit more and lower down and take a breath. Let's do one more. You might not usually do bridge like this, so it doesn't give you a lot of play. It can be a little harder when the legs are together. Squeeze your inner thighs together. Make sure your feet are comfortably down. Press into the big toe side of the foot, the little toe side. When you just lift your hips up, get a little tuck in your pelvis, pubic bone toward belly button, and then maybe come up a little higher, maybe or maybe not. And here you can stay for a breath, or you could come right down. And then eventually we're all going to come down. Now, move your feet a little bit apart if you wish. Oftentimes in the yoga class, we would do this squeezing a block. So you could take a block or a small pillow if you like. You don't need to. What that does is it prevents us from lifting up and having the knees pop out. We want to keep our legs the same distance from each other. As you inhale, tuck your pelvis, lift up, big toe side, little toe side, and then relax your feet down. Good, 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 good. And then exhale and lower. Take a breath and do it again. As you inhale, let's add another little piece to this. Firm your lowest part of your glute. So don't be shy. Reach right under there. The part of the glute that's right above the thigh. Give that a little squeeze. That's really an important piece to have working for you, especially when you're doing bridge. And lift up here. If it's comfortable, stay here for 1 or 2 or 3 breaths. If you're fighting with the pose, if you're like, oh my God, I got to stay here another breath, don't do that. Just stay up as long as you can stay up here and have enough breath to talk. You can just talk to yourself in your home. Good. And then lower down. Then remove your block and take your feet wider than your hips. You're not taking them off of the mat. You're not going super wide. And remember that at this width, and there's probably no block that's big enough to hug with our legs. Just make sure when you come up, your knees don't come out to the side, okay? Anchor your feet down. Maybe here I'm going to do the more standard arm position. You could do that too. Arms down. If I do that version, I like to turn my arms up, kind of roll my shoulders under a little bit. And then for the forearms to fingertips, they come back down. And when you're ready, you can start by tucking your pelvis a little bit. Inhale, press into your feet, big toe side, little toe side. Keep your belly normal. We don't have to suck it in, but we don't want to push it up. Let your belly soften. And notice now with the legs, this is the third width that we did. If this bridge came more easy or more natural, take another breath here and then slowly lower down. You can rest your knees together. And we're going to do one more if you wish. We're doing a few in each leg position. Just notice which one you like better. And then from here, when you're ready, root your arms down. Make sure your neck is comfortable and long. And then when you're ready, tap your glutes, fire them up, start lifting, tuck your pelvis, press your feet down, and imagine that your knees were sailing toward your toes. Sail your knees toward your toes, hug the glutes, nice huggy wuggy. Take 1 or 2 more breaths here. Remember, if you are talking and you can't talk because you're out of breath, you should come down. So feel free to talk to your pet, so you know. And then lower down and rest the knees together. Take 2 breaths here. So this is where we're going to use either a foam yoga block or a neatly folded rectangle blanket that's not very thick, not very tall. You can use either one. I'm going to use the block. You take the prop within reach. You lift your hips first. And then with the block, you slide it underneath you. With the soft prop, you might have to use both hands to get it in place. Where does the block go? On the back of our hips. So when you reach underneath you on your head side of the block, you should be able to feel your entire lumbar spine, your entire low back, and probably even a little bit of the top rim of your pelvis is also on that block. So this is a bridge just like the other ones, except this bridge is the toe-free one where we're not working at all to stay in it. So we're going to stay here for a couple of breaths, maybe about a minute or so. So if you need a blanket under your head, by all means, get a blanket under your head. If you don't want to stay as long as a minute, I'm going to kind of time it. You don't have to be here that long. But here you're getting some of the benefits of bridge. You're not working the muscles, so you're not getting that particular benefit, but you're getting a partial inversion because your head is lower than your hips, right? And probably because this is a little, our chest really isn't flat down because bridge lifts us up. So your heart is also higher than your hips. So it's a nice partial inversion, but you're doing it without muscular effort, which is what makes it restorative. Take your arms by your side with the palms up. Remember, you can always come out of it sooner if you need to. Otherwise, just take a few more breaths here. Easy inhale, smooth exhale. Two more breaths here. When you're ready to come out, and if you're not ready yet, you can stay here for a few more minutes. You have to press your feet down and initiate an active bridge just to lift your hips enough to get the prop out, place it to the side, lower down, and just rest on your back for a moment. A lot of times I start classes lying down, and I didn't here, so we don't have anything to compare to. But after all of the stuff that we did in the forward bending and the bridging, you might feel that your back is really, really super connected to your mat, not just your shoulders, your upper back, your mid back. Just take a few breaths here. And then when you're ready, don't get up. I just have to stretch something and I just want to check something. Yeah. When you're ready, take your knees wide and you're just going to start tipping your knees over a little bit from side to side. Nice and easy. Don't fling them. Drives me crazy when people do that. They're like, really quick. Just nice and slow. Keep your head still. And then for a twist, if it works for you, take your knees over. Lost my prop to one side. Now you could stay there, or if you like, to make it more gentle and cozy, you could take a yoga block or a blanket underneath. I'll call this the outer thigh, the front thigh. And even though you can't see it, that's the inner thigh. And you could prop that one if you wish, but you need to take the prop higher up on the thigh, very close to the butt in most cases. So just enjoy this little twist here. Turn your head away from your knees. Take 3 breaths. Two more breaths. One more breath. And then when you're ready, roll those feet back onto the mat. Shift your hips a little bit over to the right because they probably came out of place. Take your knees feet nice and wide, and drip your knees over to the other side. Prop accordingly. You don't have to use a prop if you don't want to. Take your arms out to the side. You can turn your head away from your knees and take a few breaths here. Twists help to nourish the spine, and we did 2 seated twists, so getting a lot of twisting in this evening. Take one more breath here. Breathe into the width of your rib cage if you like. And then when you're ready, Lift the legs back up. We're going to do one hip opener, and then we're going to do another restorative pose that has a back bending component and a hip opening component. Possibility of those things. We don't remember, everyone's body is different. So draw your right leg into your chest and then spin the knee out and rest your ankle right above the knee on your thigh. And even though you can't see it on this side, maybe so good, you're going to flex that ankle, and the sole of that foot is a little bit past the outer edge of your thigh. Now, your knee might be here, it might be here, so just let it be where it's going to be, okay? That's all we're going to do for now. Just be there. And then most important for the things we're going to do next, you want to make sure your hips are even. So we're doing different things with the legs that can make the hips very uneven. So make sure your armpit to hip distance is the same. And if you're not sure, just bring your hands to your hips so that they don't move. Good. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to lift up your left foot. Draw the left foot. So now when we're drawing the left foot toward us, what's happening? We're getting into our hips. Again, you could be here or you could be super close, whatever works. And try and keep equal action. So your left leg is drawing toward your right, but your right thigh is pressing away. You don't have to use your hand. I'm just kind of showing you. It's kind of like this kind of thing, this kind of action, push me, pull you. So press the right thigh away. Make sure your low back has not overly arched. By the way, you can relax your left foot completely, relax the heel to the thigh, unless you have a knee injury. And then land that foot down. Pause here. Notice after you drew the legs in and did that little stretch, if the thigh is a little more open, if you have a little more space in your right hip joint, right hip crease area. Maybe you do, but you know what? It's not, everyone has our range of motion, right? Different range of motion. So make your feet parallel again to the second side. Hands on your hips. Draw the left leg toward you. Externally rotate the leg. Take ankle to knee on the other side. So you can see the sole of my foot is past the thigh, and it's just right above the knee. Keep the hips even and press the thigh away from you. So this helps to open up the hip right here. And this may be where you stay. You don't have to do the next piece. So this is perfectly acceptable. Sometimes this is called a variation of half pigeon. Now, if you feel like you'd like to try the second piece, lift your right heel up, bring the toes a little closer to you, and draw that thigh toward you. Flex both ankles, ankles. Flex both of your ankles, and again, make sure your hip to armpit distance is the same. What tends to happen is the leg that's bent in front of us, that hip comes up. You want to keep those hips even. You can even take some fingertips in your hip creases and just kind of press in there to open up the hips a little more and keep that space. You can use two fingers, the index finger and the middle finger in the hip creases. And then even though you do two opposite reactions in a way, you draw your right thigh toward you, but you press your left thigh away from you. Right thigh toward you, left thigh away from you. And just go to a comfortable range of motion, and you can let this leg relax. I'm so used to now not letting the leg relax on the other side, I forget. Just let the leg that's coming toward you, just relax. Good. And then when you're ready, release that. Land your foot down. Unwind the other foot, and just take 2 breaths here. And we're going to do one more, just a quickie bridge, just to do something that's symmetrical after something that was asymmetrical. And you also might notice that you have a little more opening in your hips. So robot arms if you like, or arms by your side. press into your feet and just lift up into bridge. Doesn't have to be your biggest one, but just notice it feels more open in the front of the place where the thigh kind of connects into your hip. Or if you feel that you stretch the top of the thighs a little bit. And then lower yourself down, ease over to your most comfortable side, rest on your side for a few breaths. So I can't see you, but promise me you're going to rest on your side for a few breaths. And then we're going to set up for our last restorative pose, which is going to then take us into Shavasana. So this combines back bending with hip opening. So at the place on your mat where your head is going to go, either if you have kind of a small bolster like this, that will work. But you can see this is not very high. So 2 or 3 bed pillows, or if you have thick blankets, you can make it that something this high. Okay? So that's that piece. The next piece is take another one of your blankets. Oh, this is a bath towel, a beach towel. A bath towel works. Open it up this way and then start rolling it. I'm not doing it very neatly here. You can fold it first and then roll it. Sometimes that saves a little time. So you know, if you're old enough, those snakes that people used to use to block door drafts. So it's kind of like a snaky thing. Place that to the side. So the back bending piece, we're going to be sitting in front of the prop and laying down. So some other things you might need here, maybe you're going to want your head a little higher. So have a blanket or small pillow handy. So you'll have, if you're using pillows, you're going to have another pillow on top. So have that handy. I probably won't need that. So I'm not going to use that. And then you can also have a blanket handy. And I know I like this to sit on because you can see this is pretty thick. With pillows, you might not need to sit on a blanket, but the way I'm doing the pose, I know I will need that. And that's to make sure that our low back curve is not excessively curved when we're in the pose. Does that make sense? I'll talk more about that. And then you come to sitting with either your bolster behind you or your big old pile of pillows or your big old stack of blankets. And just to test the back bend first before we add the hip opener, bend your knees and lower yourself down. So here, I don't know if you can see this, you're going to get a really nice opening in the chest, right? Sorry if you can't hear me, my earpiece is flopping out. And my low back curve is just kind of like a waterfall, just curving over the end of this prop and then also onto the blanket. So just make sure, test that out. And if you need to make any adjustment, you can either make the prop you're sitting on higher, or if you've stacked a whole bunch of things to create the prop that you're lying on, you can make it lower. I can't use one piece. Does that make sense? You might want to have a block on either side of you for a hand rest. You know, it's a lot of stuff, right? So just make sure you have the props comfortable for the back bending piece. You don't want to feel like you're overarching. What you want to feel is a nice opening in the chest, which we've cultivated through a lot of the movements that we did. And then this is what this does. This is like sometimes in yoga, people use a strap to bind their legs, and I've never really liked that. And I've trained in yoga, restorative yoga specifically, and I'm kind of a maverick with that, but no strap. So you take this nice soft thing on tops of your ankles, and then you loop it underneath your calves. Good. So this is a very gentle tool to help keep the feet toward each other without locking you in like a strap would do. So you don't have to use anything here, but I just wanted to show you this. Just get those out of the way. So here's your hip opening, and your legs might be here. Everyone's hip opening is different. You can use blocks to also support your legs like this, if you need to. And then when you're ready, you can hold on to the end. I like to do this and steer steer yourself down. So the way I'm doing the pose, my head is on the same level as my heart. But if that is uncomfortable for you, or if you tend to get dizzy, feel free to take something under your head like a blanket. And again, you can add extra props under your legs for more comfort. You could do that. Actually, we don't really need the props under the hand so much. I usually do that when I have this piece up a lot higher. We're really close to the floor. So just take your arms beside you with your palms up. Feel free to snuggle your hands into your sleeves if you're chilly. Good. Now, if anything about this pose does not please you, you're not going to do it. So remember, you can just, we didn't have the hip position before, so you could just have the back bending piece with the feet on your mat and the knees up. That works. And as for the back bending piece, if it ever becomes too much, what are you going to do? You're going to come out of the pose. I'm going to time us here for maybe 3 minutes, and we'll take it from there. But if you need to come out before I say it's time to come out, please do so. So we've prepared for this in a lot of ways. We've done some hip opening. We've definitely done a lot of back bending. We twisted to nourish the spine. So now we're putting these pieces together in supported bound angle. Make sure that you are completely comfortable from head to toe. Some people are so comfortable in a pose like this, they could do a 10-minute shavasana in it, but that I'm not recommending that, because that could be really hard. That's usually if your hips are a little more on the open side to begin with. Let your breath flow in and out very, very naturally. If you start to feel too much opening in the hips, easy fix. Bend your knees, take your feet wide, rest your knees against each other. So it's your choice. Surrender your shoulders down. Breathe into the width of your collarbones. I'm going to tell you the exit strategy for this pose, just in case you need to come out of it sooner than the 3 minutes I suggested we start with. So exit strategy, and remember, you don't have to do this yet. You bring the feet up, feet down, actually, knees up, you ease over to your side, and you rest there. And I'm going to stay like this so I can see the timer, but you can still be in the pose. Let the breath flow naturally. Anytime you're in a yoga pose, whether it's an active pose or a restorative pose where your body isn't doing the work per se, if you find that the breath is restricted, it may mean that you're creating too much effort if it's an active pose, so that you're losing your breath rhythm, or if you're in a restorative pose, it might mean that you're really not comfortable and it's showing up as the breath is not relaxed. If you're comfortable, take another minute here. If you're not comfortable, bring your knees to point to the ceiling, place your feet on the mat, and roll over to your side and rest. Let the props support your body. Let the floor of your house support the props. Let your earth support your floor. You have layers and layers of support underneath you. If you are still in the restorative pose, you might want to come out now. You can always come back to this for Shavasana if you like. So you bring the knees up, take the feet wide, let the knees rest against each other. And then you think about what side you want to go to, and you shift your hips to the other side, and you come to lying on your side. I already did that. I already rested on my side, but if you're just coming up now, you have to take a few breaths lying on your side. One, because it feels nice, and we just want to transition to the next move. We're going to just do one really quick twist, and then Shavasana. And we're going to use these props to create the twist. You might not want to be sitting too high, so you're really just going to have a stack of pillows here. And we're just going to do one more little twist. So you sit sideways. You can stack your legs on top of each other. I need a little more opening for my knees. Inhale and lift. Exhale and twist. Walk your hands forward. Inhale and lift. Exhale, lower down. And we're only going to stay on each side for about a minute. Make sure your head is comfortable. If your prop is too low, you can also bring in another prop to have your head higher if you like that. That's also good for me here because I can see the screen a little bit better. You just really want to let your belly soften down, let your chest soften down so your upper back can be super, super broad. Take, let's say, 3 or 4 more breaths here on this side of the twist. Make sure you are completely comfortable. When you're ready, place your palms down on your mat. Slowly lift up, take your time, unwind your spine and pause. And then you're gonna turn, spin yourself to the other side. And you can stack your legs on top of each other or do a more open leg position here. I'm doing that for my knee, and you have your prop pretty close to you, right next to your hip as best you can. Inhale here. As you exhale, twist toward the floor, in the sense, toward your prop. Take your arms out long. Inhale again and exhale and fold belly, ribs, and head. And I feel I'm very rude now because I'm twisting away from the screen. But you're not being rude, so you don't have to worry. And just take a few breaths here. Notice how broad your back feels. Breathe into your upper back, right between your shoulder blades. One more breath here on the second side of the twist. And then when you're ready, initiate the lift by pushing into your hands and then come all the way up. I got to do a little turn. So now from here, deep relaxation. Maybe you're already in deep relaxation. So you can come, if you like that bound angle pose, you can come back to that. You can have your chest on this. You can have a blanket here. You can have your legs the way they were. But if you just want to have a nice, good old fashioned Shavasana with minimal props, just take whatever you need under your head. If you want a blanket to cover you, get a blanket to cover you. I'm just going to pop in there for a minute, but then I'm going to be sitting up. So don't be concerned. You might want to have a bolster or a blanket underneath your legs. So your choice. Maybe I've given you too many choices. So if you're not sure what to do, I'd say keep it simple and just come to lying down with your head supported and your arms by your side. Feels so good. If your low back is feeling cranky, you can bend your knees, take your feet wide and rest the knees together. You can also give a little tuck and make a little more space for your low back. That can work too. You can loop your legs over a big old pile of blankets. Let go wherever you can. Surrender the weight of your skull, the weight of its contents, the expanse of your shoulders, and the length of your arms from shoulder to fingertips on each side. Surrender your upper back, your middle back, and your low back. Soften your belly. Soften your bottom. Invite your thighs to be super, super relaxed. And your lower legs, your ankles, and all of your toes. Let go wherever you can and surrender to stillness. Easy inhale. Smooth exhale. Shoulders relaxed. Jaw soft. Voice silent. Enjoy a few more breaths here. Remember that this is your time and your practice. And you don't need to end Shavasana when the class ends, whether you're in the live class tonight or whether you're watching the video. Take as long a Shavasana as you like. When you are ready to release, move slowly and with intention. You may want to stretch, yawn, or sigh. And then you might decide you still want to stay in Shavasana longer and give yourself permission to do that. If and when you're ready to come out of this lovely restful pose, you bend your knees, you place your feet on your mat and you pause, and then you ease over to your most comfortable side and pause again. And then when you're ready, you can come to sitting to close your practice with us here, or you can just keep lying on your side. Draw your hands together and your hands to your heart center. Lift your heart up and bow your head down. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Namaste. Thank you very much.